Get inspired, one story at a time. Only on The Humans of Bombay show with Shannon, Season 2. Honestly, these sound effects, they cannot do justice to make us imagine what took place on the battlefield in the Kargil War in 1999. Today on the Humans of Bombay show, I have a Kargil War hero with me. And his story, it's one of courage, glory, and a miraculous survival. This soldier's name is Captain Naveen Nagappa, who was in charge of leading his battalion to recapture point 4875 from the Pakistani army. And after 2 days and nights of relentless combat, Captain Naveen and our troops, they were left with only one more bunker to capture and win the war. And while Sir was hiding in another bunker, getting ready to attack, a grenade was flung at Captain by the enemy soldiers. And its explosion time was only 4 seconds. Captain Naveen, he tried to throw it back, but it hit a boulder and came rolling back to him. It stopped right near his feet. I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, but I'll let Captain narrate the story forward from here. Captain, thank you so much for joining me, first of all. Captain, when the grenade, it fell right in front of you and it was about to explode, what went through your mind at that time? You were staring at death right in the face. Did you think that you were going to die?
Actually, the grenade is designed to explode after 4 seconds once lobbed. And generally, they say it has got a killing radius of about 5 to 10 meters, depending upon the type of grenade, the space, how constrained it is, and a whole lot of other factors. Once the enemy lobbed the grenade into the bunker which I was guarding, I picked it up and tried to lob it back as I couldn't run out of the bunker. Imagine picking a live grenade. I'm sure you would have lit crackers during many festivals, and how far you run away once the crackers are lit. To throw something at a distance, you need a proper swing, which I couldn't get as I was sitting in a very constrained space. I picked up the grenade and tried to lob it back towards the enemy. Unfortunately, it hit the boulder and rolled back right next to my feet. Then I realized out of the 4 seconds time lag of a grenade, I have already lost 2 to 3 seconds. Believe me, I have seen death at a very close quarter. I knew I was not going to survive the blast. It was at that point of a time, it was like everything flashing right in front of my eyes. My childhood, my friends, my teachers, my parents. I just prayed to God. God, just keep my face intact so that at least my parents get to see my face for the last time. As I knew I was about to die, if a grenade blast and I'm sitting like this in front of a grenade, my upper part of the body will be blown off and shredded into pieces. What will they send home back Naveen as? Some muscle pieces, some bone pieces put in a gunny bag and sent home. Will my parents ever excuse me for this? Loss of the son will be a tremendous loss, but not even having the opportunity to see the face for the last time would have devastated them. So, with a prayer on my lips to God just to keep my face intact, I jumped towards a narrow opening between the bunker and the boulder. And then, within a fraction of a second, there was a huge blast.
Sir, it's amazing how so many thoughts go through your head, even though you had only like 2 seconds. It's incredible. Captain, so you told me that the grenade, it exploded. But somehow you still survived. What happened next? I believe you saw Captain Vikram Batra. He was running towards you, right?
Yeah, once the grenade blasted, for the next 15 seconds, I did not know whether I'm dead, whether I'm alive. I was in a state of hallucination. There was ringing sound in my ears. There was smell of cordite. There was smell of burnt flesh. Blood was scattered all over. All I could make out from the background noise was that the enemy had launched a counterattack. They were rushing towards me. And before I could regain some consciousness, before I could come back to my senses, what I could see was there was a person running towards my bunker, firing towards the enemy. And by the time I just settled down, the first thing I see Captain Vikram Batra standing in front of me, firing towards the enemy. And with just a pause, he looked into my face and told me, Naveen, tu darna nahi, मैं आ गया हूँ. And that is the time I realized कि मतलब I am alive. अब मैंने अपने आप को ये बोला कि नवीन तू अभी तक नहीं मरा तो आगे भी नहीं मरेगा. So that was an inspirational moment for me. Although I was injured badly, I picked up my AK-47 which was lying next to me. I picked up and started firing back towards the enemy, and somehow we managed to stall the counterattack.
So you managed to start the attack again, but I believe you couldn't move. You actually had to drag yourself a couple of meters to get to a boulder to protect yourself. And your fellow soldiers, they had come for you and they picked you up, right? What was your last memory of being picked up and being taken down from the peak, sir?
What I recollect and remember is the bunker which I had sitting in had already collapsed and both my legs badly injured. I couldn't move an inch. That is the time Captain Vikram Batra held my hand and dragged me out of the bunker. He dragged me good about 10 to 15 meters, and that is the time he patted my back. Our fists met, and he started running towards the enemy to carry on the attack. And I started crawling towards our men. And I recollect crawling about 100 to 150 meters because that stretch was exposed and there was no chance that my men would come there and pick me up. So I crawled good about 100 to 150 meters, sat behind a boulder, and saw the state of my legs. It was pretty bad. Both my legs were heavily injured, heavily bleeding, and my right leg was literally dangling. If somebody had applied pressure and pulled it, it would have come apart. I was in that state.
Sir, despite your state, you still wanted to fight, right? You still wanted to serve your fellow Jawans. You didn't want to leave without the mission being accomplished. Am I accurate in saying that?
Absolutely. I don't know how many of you have seen Shersha movie. In the Shersha movie, they have captured this clip wherein, I get injured, Captain Vikram Batra drags me from the bunker, and at one point of a time, I am pleading, I am crying to Vikram Batra. He was my senior, so I used to address him as sir. I am pleading with him, sir, mujhe niche mat bejo. I don't know with both my legs injured how I would have been helped to those men fighting out there, but still, I wanted to be with my men. I wanted to be with Captain Vikram Batra. I wanted to be in the midst of action. In spite of getting so severely injured, I wanted to be there and I wanted to see the tricolor flying high.
Sir, I really want to salute you. And the reason why I want to do that is because, you're so selfless. Even in such a crisis, you still wanted to serve. You wanted to be there for your fellow Jawans. I can't think of anything more inspiring. So I do want to salute you for that. The fact that you're prioritizing other people's lives even before yourself, even when you're out of energy, when you're out of strength, it takes tremendous amount of courage. Captain, after you were brought down from the peak, the Jawans, they carried you down. You were put into the dangerously ill list. You had to be flown to Srinagar to a hospital to be operated on. So the next day, while you were in the helicopter, you were being flown over. I know you would have been thinking about the war. Your mind would have been on the battlefield. You passed by point 4875. What did you see from the helicopter?
Oh yeah, I got hurt on 7th July early morning. By the time they brought me down, it was late in the evening. As you told, I was placed under dangerously ill list. I was given to understand the chances of survival or death are in equal proportions. And the earliest possible opportunity, I had to be flown in a helicopter to Srinagar for further treatment. So, next day, early morning, that is 8th July, early morning, the helicopter is waiting for me. I am lying on a stretcher. The stretcher is picked up and then placed on the helicopter. My nursing assistant is sitting right next to me. The helicopter takes off and starts moving towards Srinagar. And at one point of a time, the nursing assistant wakes me up and tells, "Sab, doctor ने उठने से मना किया हुआ है." But he says, "Sab, वो देखिए 0.4875 पे तिरंगा लहरा रहा है." By God, I tell you, that was the happiest moment of my life. I just couldn't resist myself. I sat and started glaring at the tricolor which was flying high. I told myself, Naveen, it's immaterial whether you live or die. It's of no consequence. A task has been given to you. The Indian Army had put faith in you. All the citizens of India had put faith in you, and you have managed to snatch victory out of the from the jaws of death. I was mighty thrilled. I told myself, whenever Kargil War will be spoken about, whenever 0.4875 will be spoken about, Captain Naveen's contribution will always be there, irrespective whether I live or die. I couldn't resist myself sitting on the stretcher. I was so happy that I saluted the national flag and I was lied down on the stretcher.
Absolutely, Captain. Your service will never be forgotten and it'll always be cherished. But, while you were saluting the flag, we had won the war, but there was bad news still to be given to you. And what did the nurse tell you? The man who had saved you, unfortunately, what had happened to him?
The thing is, I was on cloud nine, sitting in a helicopter, seeing the tricolor fluttering majestically, and you've been part of it, saluting the national flag. I was in a high, and that is the time nursing assistant again tells me, quote unquote, he says, "साहब इसके लिए हमने कीमत चुकाई है." मैंने कहा, उस्ताद हमने क्या कीमत चुकाई है? The nursing assistant said, "कैप्टन विक्रम बत्रा नहीं रहे." That was such a big jolt for me. I just couldn't take it. A person whom I was so close with, a person who had literally saved my life by rushing once the grenade blasted and injured both my legs. He came rushing towards my post, dragged me out of the bunker, saved my life. God knows, had he not come and the counterattack had been launched by the enemy, I would have been here, I wouldn't have been here. But the person who had saved my life, the very fact that the moment I came to know that he was no more and he had made the ultimate sacrifice, there was, I was in a state of semi unconsciousness, and moment this news was broken to me, I went into unconscious. I just fell down onto the stretcher I was lying down on.
Sir, I don't think people understand the consequences of war. Not only are you hurt physically, but such a blow like this, it hurts you internally. Mentally, also, you're completely destroyed.
It does happen, the initial, whenever such a huge intensity blast takes off and you're severely injured, it plays with your mind. When I was hospitalized for good about 21 months, out of which the first 6 months where everything was in the bed, since I had got injured early in the morning, and by the time I got decent medical treatment, it was late in the evening. There was too much of infection. There was too much of blood flow. The infection was not coming to control, and that is the time you tend to lose. I was under the impression I am a very mentally strong officer, but there comes a time when your morale starts going down, and you start feeling, God, why me? Why this is happening with me? I was better dead than having made to go through this. I had questioned this to God a lot of times. There happens an incident in which one of my fellow soldier who didn't come back from the war, his mother was very close to me, and I was given to understand that in the hospital when I was going through this morally down, thinking I was better dead than alive, I was given to understand my fellow soldier's mother is coming to meet me. I was wondering, how am I going to face her? What am I going to tell her? If she asks, Naveen, तू तो वापस आ गया, मेरे बेटे को उधर क्यों छोड़ दिया? What will I say? What will I answer to her? Next day morning, auntie comes, talks to me, for good about an hour or so. She never mentions a word about her son. And when she's about to leave, I couldn't resist myself. I said, Auntie, मुझे माफ कर देना. I was fighting in a different sector. You're fighting in a different sector. There was no way I could have saved his life. The auntie turns and tells back one thing, she says, Naveen, the best gift a son can give to his mother or motherland is his body coming back wrapped in tricolor, and the lady walks off. And probably what I remember since my adulthood, that was the only time, tears started rolling down my eyes. I would have cried good about, 20 to 30 minutes. And then I realized, once I came back to my senses, I realized, look at this lady, having lost her son, she says that's the best gift she has ever received. And look at me, in spite of me being alive, although yes, the difficulties are there, the pain is there, but still I have my parents to talk to. I can watch news, I can watch TV, but still I'm cursing myself. I'm telling myself, why am I alive? And that was the turning point in
Yeah,
my during my hospitalization period.
it's such an inspiring story, and we shouldn't take life for granted. It's the little things, right? I mean, you're alive, you're breathing, you're with your family. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. Captain, you hadn't even told your parents that you were serving in the Kargil War and you were in hospital. When your parents came and met you, what was their reaction?
Yes, initially I was trying to avoid telling my family members. The reason was my father was a heart patient. I didn't want to break the news to him, so I had kept it as a secret. But there came a point in time when the doctors were worried about my health condition deteriorating because of the infection which was spreading onto my legs. That is the time the doctors told me, either you speak to them in inform, or we have to inform per force. And that is the time I realized it's better I speak to my parents and tell. I rang up my mother, broke the news to her, and told her ki I've injured my legs. Although I was trying to convince her that it's not a major injury, however, I knew it was a very major injury, severe injury. Immediately when she got the news, my mother and my brother were the one who, from Karnataka, they flew down to Delhi, and they came to the hospital to visit me, and my mother started crying. The thing was, both my legs were tied, and there was my state was such that there was cross flap which has happened. That means a part of the muscle from the right leg was passed on to the left leg, and it has to be alive, so both the legs were nailed together, and it was kept in a cross-legged fashion. My mother came and she was trying to feel the legs. She couldn't feel, and for a moment she thought both my legs have been amputated. And that was, then I had to convince her, do a lot of cajoling, convincing, and then I will be able to walk. And somehow, later on, she spent a good about 1 week with me, and later on, she got convinced.
Sir, in hospital, I'm sure it wouldn't have been easy. I've read that you used to feel like, a grenade was being lobbed at you. You used to feel like, whenever you woke up, someone was being shot behind you. So you were suffering from a form of PTSD, I guess. The war, it did have an effect on you, sir. It would have taken you time, but how did you manage to heal? Did your family help you? They would have played a major part in this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would rather call it nightmares, because sudden in the midst of a night, I used to just wake up, and try to go look for the grenade. It was like I used to get a feeling that small little sound. I used to feel that somebody has lobbed a grenade in the bunker which I was sitting. I used to jump out of the bed and try to look for the grenade. There was a time when somebody sitting or standing in front of me ducks, and suddenly I feel somebody has started firing. There is some noise of a metal clinging sound, and then I used to suddenly feel that somebody has started firing. Yes, these nightmares did happen with me in the initial phases, of course. But yes, my parents, my father, my mother, my both my sisters and my brother had a very crucial role to play. They visited, although Delhi, those days the connectivity, 20 odd years back, the connectivity was all not all that great. Every time I used to feel low, I used to speak to my brother, and he used to flow down. My sisters used to come and stay with me for a reasonable amount of time. And not to forget the army doctors, the nursing assistants, the physiotherapists, who made me and who put this into me that yes, I will be able to walk. And courtesy them, I started walking.
So, after the war, you were discharged from the Indian Army for being medically unfit, but you were awarded the Sena Medal, the OP Vijay Medal, and the Wound Medal for your service. Your dream, I mean, it would have crashed. Did you miss serving the army?
Yeah, let me tell you, I joined the defense forces just because I wanted to don the uniform. I wanted to wear the uniform. I wanted to have stars on my shoulders because I strongly believed two stars on my shoulders are better than thousands in the sky. I was so fascinated about the army uniform. My career, my service came to an abrupt end. Just about I joined in January 1999 and got hurt in July 1999. And with just 6 months of service, I got injured. And hospitalization period of 21 months, and then I was declared medically unfit to serve in army, and then I had to move out of the defense forces. The very fact that I was able to don the uniform, wear the stars for 6 months, that gives me immense satisfaction. Yes, of course, I miss the army. What I did after being boarded out, after leaving the army, was I wrote my UPSC exams. Since I was an engineer before joining the army, I wrote my UPSC exams, Indian Engineering Service exams, got through, and I've joined Ministry of Defense again. So, if not directly, if not able to be in the battlefield, if not in the front line, if not on the LOC, yes, I still continue to contribute, although indirectly, as a civilian officer in the Ministry of Defense.
Captain, could you tell us a little bit about your friend, Captain Vikram Batra? He's popularly known as Sher Shah. There's a movie that's been made on him. We all know him for what he did on the battlefield, but what was he like as a person? Why were you also inspired by him? Why did everyone look up to him?
Captain Vikram Batra was a soldier personified. He was a outstanding officer. Once he's in the uniform, once we are out on the field to carry out certain action, he was a strict officer. He used the way he used to command, the way he used to tell us, the way he used to lead us was exemplary. But once the action is over, once we come back to the units, once we are in the officer mess, little officer mess, whatever we had in the field, he was a very jovial person. He was a different person altogether. I couldn't comprehend how a person can be so official during the office matters and so personal during the non office matters. He was a fantastic person. The movie Sher, what it basically did was people knew Sher as an army officer. People knew Sher as a brave, young, energetic officer. But what people did not know, what the Sher movie did was, his personality as a civilian, his personality as boyfriend, his personality as a son, his personality as a brother to his sisters was so aptly brought out that, I say on a lighter side, that although Siddharth Malhotra, the lead actor who's playing Captain Vikram Batra's role, he has done a fantastic job. He has done a marvelous job. But as my personal opinion goes, Captain Vikram Batra was more handsome than Siddharth Malhotra.
Captain, it's been what, over 20 years since the war, and I believe a few years ago, you and your fellow Jawans, you all revisited Point 4875 to see the Indian flag waving, on the peak. What was that feeling like? I believe you sat in the same bunker from where you were saved. How did you feel being back there after all these years?
It was really nostalgic feeling, 20 years down the lane. I got hurt on 7th July 1999, and Captain Vikram Batra's martyrdom was also on the same day, that is 7th July 1999. Exactly 20 years later, that is on 7th July 2019, the entire team of 13th Battalion Jammu and Kashmir Rifles visited the very same spot in which I got hurt and Captain Vikram Batra's martyrdom was there. Let me tell you, it was one terrific, terrific feeling. I would sum it up by saying, at an altitude of 16,000 feet, when the tricolor is fluttering majestically, announcing to the world, I am the greatest, we stand beneath that and salute the national flag, and you know that you are also a small factor for that tricolor fluttering so high at 16,000 feet. It gave me immense satisfaction, it gives me immense pride. एंड मुझे उस दिन के बाद ना मुझे जिंदगी में और कुछ नहीं चाहिए था. आई हैड लिव्ड माई लाइफ. देयर वाज नथिंग टू लुक फॉरवर्ड टू. आई डिडंट वांट एनीथिंग इन लाइफ. आई हैव अचीव्ड व्हाटएवर आई वांटेड टू. अगर मैं अगले दिन मर जाता ना, मुझे कोई गम नहीं था. आई फील सो हैप्पी, आई हैव लिव्ड माई लाइफ.
Congratulations, sir. I just want to let you know that your selfless attitude towards serving India is incredibly inspiring. I wish I had the same bravery as you did and still have to join the Indian Army. I get such goosebumps when I hear stories like this, but it makes me want to be a better citizen. There's so many ways of serving your country, and I want to be a better citizen when I hear stories like this. I love the fact that you put India first, you put your friends first, you put your Jawans first, even before your own life. The fact that everyone works together to achieve the goal. It's not about your personal goal, that comes last. And again, I have to reiterate, you were in so much of pain, and yet, even in that time, you thought about your fellow Jawans. And that is such an inspiring lesson, not only to me, but to everyone who's listening to this podcast. So, before we wrap up this episode of the podcast, do you have any message or any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners to inspire them?
I would definitely like to do that. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, during the Kargil War, 527 soldiers sacrificed their lives, and about 1,300 people got injured, for whom life has never been the same again. Why did they sacrifice so much? Why did 527 soldiers made the supreme ultimate sacrifice? It's just that to keep the nation first, to see that the tricolor flies high, to see that the Constitution of India is held tight, to see that you and me are free. What I would like to convey is, live your life in such a way that those 527 soldiers sitting up above should feel कि इनके लिए हमने जान दी है, ये देश को आगे बढ़ा रहा है. This is the message I want to convey.
Thank you, sir, so much again for speaking to me. I appreciate you bravely recounting and reliving your story with me. And on that note,
so what's the moral of the story?
And I guess there's no greater deed than serving and giving your all for your nation. And I'd also like to add, whenever we hear stories about the 527 Jawans who laid their life for our country, for India, let's not mourn them. In fact, instead, let's celebrate the fact that these brave men lived. And in saying that, this brings to an end this episode of the Humans of Bombay show. I'm your host, Shannon. Tune in next time to keep getting inspired, one story at a time.
Hosted by Shannon Court. Edited by Chinmay Agharkar. Designed by Kaushik Ramachandran. Mix and master by Ariel Samson. Production head for Benchmark Studios, Judith Lasrado. Line produced by Benchmark Studios, Mumbai. Special thanks to Pratik Waghela and CEO and founder of Humans of Bombay, Karishma Mehta.